Hey there, this is it. I can't believe it's almost over. Today is step 5 of the Communicate to Build Relationships 5-day challenge. Has this been a great challenge for you? I do want to reiterate just one more time. If you haven't listened to step 4, go back and do that, especially since I did give you a little sneak peek of what you'll learn in the Get Connected course about acknowledgement languages. So again, I'm Jen, and it is the final day of our challenge. All week in the challenge, you've been learning how to have meaningful and productive interactions with the humans in your life. And if you've been doing the challenge tasks, I want you to think back to where you were in step 1, when you first understood that you had a personality paintbrush. And just take a moment to congratulate yourself on the progress you've made in just 4 days. Maybe you're more aware of your pace versus other people's pace, which has led to more patience. Or maybe you've been able to let go of that harsh comment that was in your Facebook group because now you've got some perspective about that person's attention. Or maybe you've finally made a connection with a quote, difficult prospect. And now you've got hope that you're going to be making a real impact in their life, that otherwise you might have just written it off as a personality difference and just bypassed them. Now that's huge, and you deserve a high five for putting in all the effort this week to get you there. Now today I've got the third and final tactic I want to share with you, and that's coming up. But before I do that, hopefully you got your special invitation yesterday in your inbox for the Get Connected course. And I want to go ahead and congratulate you who have taken advantage of the fast action bonus that ended last night at midnight. I can't wait for that. And you'll be getting more details about that in a separate email. But if not, you still have a few more days to enroll in the course at the early bird rate. That's over 37% off the regular price just for being in this challenge. I'm going to leave the link in the show notes as well. After that, it's going to go back up to regular price. So, if you want to dive deeper into understanding the acknowledgement language of yourself and for other people, Get Connected is for you. You're going to be dipping your toes into the Enneagram on a very practical behavioral level. So you're not going to get overwhelmed, and you're not going to have to worry about trying to guess someone else's type, because actually you don't even need to know anything about types in order to come up with your communication game plan for each other. And in the course, you're going to have downloads with the visuals in a workbook, including a tool that's going to help you write out that game plan on how to communicate with a different personality so that you both feel acknowledged and you can deeply connect with that person without losing yourself in the process. Now, during this challenge, I've addressed 3 ways that we are different, and sometimes that can put up a communication barrier. But in the Get Connected course, you're going to learn 9 ways that we are different, 8 of which I didn't get to cover in this challenge. And in case you're giving me a side glance at my math skills there, that 9th one is pay style, which I talked about in the challenge and I'm going to talk about in more detail in the course. But yesterday's topic and today's topic, which is attention and boundaries, those are actually some common parts of our acknowledgement language. But understanding the 9 different acknowledgement languages can help you be on the same page with someone even when you disagree. Now that's a great segue into today's third and final tactic I want to share with you. How can you make sure that you don't inadvertently cross a boundary? That boundary that can create tension that will build up over time every time we cross it, and it'll break the rapport. First, let's realize that there are 2 purposes for boundaries. Number 1, to protect you from others, and number 2, to protect others from you. And depending on your personality and your level of awareness and health, you might lean heavily to one side versus the other. Now, when it comes to crossing boundaries, there are so many different scenarios, and the effects of trauma is beyond the scope of this challenge. So remember, I'm not talking about malice intent in relationships in this challenge, but rather I'm talking about the subconscious blind spots that we all have in our personality. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to put it in the context of pace style, since that is something I know you're already familiar with because of earlier in this challenge. So someone operating in a slow pace style, they might worry that they're going to offend or bother or somehow waste the other person's time by reaching out to connect with them. So either they don't reach out, or they might reach out in a way that there isn't any room for reciprocation. You see the wedge there. Now, I've seen this a lot in clients who don't really consider themselves salespeople and they're struggling in their businesses. But it could also be in a situation where there is a stubborn resistance or even a sacrificial mindset. There might be a lot of thinking and feeling happening, but not as much doing. Then there are those folks who are operating in a fast-paced style. And there might be a lot of doing for them, but not as much thinking and feeling. And this might look like sticking your foot in your mouth, or putting the cart before the horse, or having to come back and eat crow or do damage control once the thinking and feeling has caught up with what you did or say. Can you kind of guess which pace style I might be? But in those situations, both of those situations, that shows unhealthy boundaries, either by having an unhealthy fear of crossing a boundary or an unhealthy disregard of a boundary. And a lot of this time, this is due to a fear of missing out or being controlled or pride, or perhaps it's part of your competitive or ambitious nature. So in conversations, how do we overcome either extreme? Simply lead in with your fears. If you've already been able to discern the parts of your personality that are your drivers, like what the Enneagram helps us distinguish, this tactic will be easier to implement. And adding the Enneagram will really uncover some deep stuff. But you can do this in a very simple and practical way. Like, if you're afraid of getting on someone's nerves, simply preface your talk with, "I'm afraid this might get on your nerves." Or if you're afraid a student or a client is going to take up too much of your time, lead in with, "I've got 20 minutes. But if you want to really connect deeply in your relationships, leading in with your fears is going to take some real vulnerability. Now, if that doesn't sit well with you, there are ways you can express your vulnerability without feeling vulnerable or overexposed. Remember, step 5 is about healthy boundaries, the kind that don't trigger. And that is how you're going to be able to connect without losing yourself, because for you, being vulnerable is healing. And what being vulnerable does for the other person is it gives some people permission to push or at least stand closer to a boundary that might be boxing them in. And for others, it gives them this clarity that they need to open their eyes and see a boundary that they didn't pick up on before, so that way they can reposition themselves. Bottom line, vulnerability is the mortar between the bricks that build a bond in a relationship. And without it, that foundation is going to be shaky. And at the slightest storm, it's not going to be pretty. So, in the Get Connected course, after we go through the 9 different acknowledgement languages, I'm going to be introducing even more tactics for a total of 9 skills that you're going to have at your fingertips to communicate in order to build relationships. And you're going to be able to implement these tactics to address both attention and boundary issues in your communications. And these are going to work for your business and personal relationships. Plus, you're going to get a handy tool that helps you highlight the differences between you and the other person, so that you'll be able to create a game plan on how best to communicate with them so that you'll both feel acknowledged. So for today, your challenge task will be simply practicing leading in with your fears and observing their responses. Now, this might require some digging to uncover what you might be afraid of. And newsflash, we are all afraid of something. So if you're feeling confident that you don't have a fear to lead in with, Take today to just observe yourself and get connected with yourself first to see if you can discover something about yourself that might show vulnerability privately first. And if not, there's a tactic with a better fit waiting for you inside of the Get Connected course. So practice this sometime today at least once, and then post in the group or send me an email or a DM and let me know that you did it. And that will be your 5th drawing entry for the prizes. 6th if you've completed all 5 steps. Now remember, the prizes are gift cards, coaching, and a free seat in the Get Connected for Leaders and Business Owners course. And if you've already enrolled and you're the winner, I'm just going to give you a refund. No problem. So today we talked about leading in with your fears, and that vulnerability is that mortar between the bricks for a strong foundation of a relationship. And your task today is to start your conversations leading in with your fear and to observe the other person and how they respond. Now, don't forget to post, email, or DM me that you've practiced it so that you can get your drawing entry plus your bonus for completing all 5 steps. Well, congratulations, you made it to the end of the challenge. I'm kind of sad that it's over, but I am so thrilled at the results and progress that you've made this week. I believe that understanding the acknowledgement languages and how we are all different really opened my eyes, and I hope it has helped you this week too. I want to thank you for participating in this challenge and being a part of my ripple effect into the world. And I can't wait to see how much further it can ripple with you inside Get Connected. I'll see you then.